The fat security guard grabbed her shoulders so roughly that Sarah cried out and instinctively pressed her hands to her belly. "Get the hell out of here, you beggar," he barked, shaking her like a doll. "How many times do I have to tell you, don't hang around here?" The young woman stumbled, her bright scarf slipping to the side, revealing tangled black hair. At 8 months pregnant, it was hard to keep her balance, and she nearly fell onto the marble floor of Pennsylvania Station in New York City. "I'm not begging," she whispered, trying to pull away. "I'm waiting for a train. I have a ticket." The guard burst out laughing, his belly jiggling under his uniform shirt. "A ticket, huh? Look at yourself, dirty, stinking, pregnant with God knows whose kid. People like you don't belong in decent places." A crowd had already gathered. Some were filming on their phones, others whispered, pointing fingers. A young blonde woman in an expensive fur coat stepped back with a disgusted expression, covering her nose with a handkerchief. "Ugh, she really does smell," she said loudly to her friend. "And they breed like rabbits, then their brats go around begging at train stations." Sarah lowered her head, tears dripped onto her faded dress. She really did look disheveled. 2 nights in the waiting hall had taken their toll. The train from Albany, where her aunt lived, had been delayed for 3 days because of an accident on the tracks. She had no money for a hotel, and even if she did, who would take her in looking like that? "Show me your ID," the guard demanded, clearly enjoying himself and the little bit of power he had. With trembling hands, Sarah reached into her worn-out bag, then froze. She remembered. She'd left her passport as collateral for a meal at a cafe near the station. The owner had promised to return it once Sarah washed dishes to pay off her debt, but she never managed to. She'd had false labor pains so sharp she spent the entire evening in the bathroom, drenched in cold sweat. "No ID? That's it, I'm calling the cops," the guard said, pulling out his radio. At that exact moment, Sarah felt something give way inside her. Warm liquid ran down her legs, and she looked down in horror. "No, no, not now," she whispered. Her water had broken. 3 weeks early, but the stress had done its work. A stabbing pain shot through her lower abdomen, and Sarah bent over, gasping. "What, you faking it now? That old trick won't work on me," the guard sneered. "Can't you see? She's in labor." A man's voice suddenly shouted. "Call an ambulance, now." Through the blur of pain, Sarah saw a tall man in his mid-30s wearing an expensive coat. He had gray eyes and a determined look. Michael Warren had just returned from a business trip and was rushing to catch the express to LaGuardia Airport. His flight to London, critical negotiations, was in 4 hours. But right now, he couldn't walk past. "An ambulance? Come on, she can deal with it herself," the guard grumbled stubbornly. "She probably poured water on herself to get sympathy." Michael pulled out his phone and dialed quickly. "Stephen, I need a medical team at Penn Station, Main Hall, right now. A woman's in labor." "Yes, it's urgent. Thanks, I'll wait." Then he turned to the guard, his tone suddenly like steel. "Step away from her, now, and let her sit down." The guard opened his mouth to argue, but something in Michael's eyes made him back off. "Not my problem," he muttered and walked off, talking into his radio. Michael took off his coat and spread it on the floor. "Sit down," he said gently. "An ambulance will be here in 10 minutes. My friend's the best obstetrician in New York. He's on his way." Sarah looked up at him through tears, disbelief shining in her eyes. "Why are you helping me? I'm just—" Another contraction cut her off. "Breathe," Michael said, crouching beside her, ignoring the filthy floor. "Deep and steady. What's your name?" "Sarah," she exhaled. "Beautiful name. I'm Michael. Look at me, Sarah. You're going to be okay, I promise." The next 15 minutes felt like forever. Michael held her hand, counted with her through contractions, wiped the sweat from her forehead with his handkerchief. The crowd had gone silent. No one was laughing anymore. People just watched, spellbound by the sight, a well-dressed man on his knees beside a poor woman, comforting her. Finally, the wail of a siren cut through the air, and a team of medics burst into the hall. Mike, the tall doctor in a white coat, nodded to Warren. "Let's get her in the van." They lifted Sarah onto a stretcher. She clutched Michael's hand. "Please, don't leave me." He glanced at his watch, 3 hours before his flight, then at her terrified face. "I'm coming with you," he decided. In the ambulance, Stephen examined her quickly. Almost fully dilated. "She'll deliver within the hour. Miss, do you have a hospital card or any lab results?" Sarah shook her head, sobbing. "I was supposed to give birth in Albany, at my aunt's. But the train—" "I see," Stephen said calmly. He was a pro, no pointless questions. All right, we're taking her to my clinic. We'll handle it there. Michael called his secretary. Alina, move the flight to tomorrow. Yes, I know about the meeting. Tell them it's an emergency. No, I can't explain right now. He hung up and looked back at Sarah. She stared at him as if he were from another planet. You're meeting because of me. It's fine, Michael said with a shrug. The world won't end if a contract gets signed a day later. Everything at the hospital happened in a blur. They rushed Sarah into the delivery room, while Michael stayed in the hallway. He didn't understand why he wasn't leaving. He ordered a cab, said goodbye to Stephen, walked toward the exit and came back. He sat on a hard bench and waited. An hour later, Stephen came out smiling. It's a boy. 7 pounds, healthy. Mom's fine too. Michael exhaled. He hadn't even realized he was holding his breath. Can I see her? In a couple of hours. She's resting. Michael stepped outside, pulled out a pack of cigarettes. He'd quit 3 years ago. He didn't light one, just turned the pack over in his hands. What was he doing here? Why couldn't he just walk away? He remembered her eyes when the guard shook her. There had been no defiance, no manipulation, just pain, shame, and a kind of doomed pride. And when she'd clutched her belly to shield the baby, that raw, desperate mother's instinct had pierced straight through him. Michael Warren wasn't a sentimental man. At 35, he ran an investment firm, moved millions, and had long since stopped trusting people, especially women, after his fiancée ran off with his best friend and half their joint business. But something in him cracked today. Maybe it was the sight of a pregnant woman humiliated for being a foreigner. Maybe it was the memory of his own mother, who'd raised him alone after his father's death, enduring scorn because she was just a janitor who'd married a professor. Or maybe he was simply tired of being cynical. 2 hours later, he was finally allowed in. Sarah lay pale but peaceful on the bed. Beside her, in a clear crib, slept a tiny bundle. Thank you, she whispered when she saw Michael. You saved us. No need to thank me, he said, pulling up a chair beside her bed. What will you name your son? Sarah looked tenderly at the baby. Leo, after my father. Beautiful name. Strong one. They sat in silence for a moment before Michael asked quietly, What are you going to do now? Do you have anywhere to go? Sarah turned her face toward the window. My aunt in Albany promised to take me in. But I don't know if she'll want to now. She's very religious, and I'm not married. And the baby's father? Sarah gave a bitter smile. He was just passing through our neighborhood. Spoke beautifully, promised to marry me. Then he disappeared. When I found him in New York and told him I was pregnant, he laughed. Said he had a dozen girls like me and told me never to look for him again. He's got a family, a reputation. She wiped away a tear. My mom kicked me out. Said I was a disgrace to the family. Told me to either get rid of the baby or leave. So I left. Michael listened, feeling a slow, burning anger rise inside him. At the man who'd abandoned her. At the mother who'd turned her back. At the guard at the station. At the whole damn world that crushed anyone who was weaker. I have an apartment, he suddenly said. A 3-bedroom place in Manhattan. I don't live there. I bought it as an investment. You can stay there until you get back on your feet. Sarah stared at him, stunned. You're kidding, right? I'm not kidding. The apartment's empty anyway. It has everything you need, furniture, appliances. Stay there with the baby, rest, figure out what to do next. But, why? You don't even know me. Michael shrugged. I don't, but I know what it feels like to be rejected, and I know that sometimes, people just need a chance. Sarah started crying again. Quietly this time, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. I don't know how to live in places like that. I've spent my whole life poor, sleeping in shelters and train stations. You'll learn, Michael said softly. You learned how to be a mother. That's a lot harder. He stood up. I'm flying to London tomorrow for 2 weeks. Here. He took a set of keys and a business card from his pocket. This is the address and the keys. My card has my number. If you need anything, call me. My assistant Alina will help you with the hospital discharge and take you to the apartment. Wait, Sarah said, trying to sit up. What if I steal everything and run? Michael paused in the doorway, turned around, and gave her a faint, sad smile. You know, Sarah, I've lost far more money trusting people in expensive suits. Maybe it's time I try trusting someone in an old scarf. And he left without looking back. Sarah pressed the keys to her chest, barely believing it was real. Little Leo stirred and whimpered softly. She picked him up and held him close. It's okay, sweetheart. I think a miracle just happened to us. Or maybe I'm dreaming. But the cold metal of the keys in her palm was real, so was the gold embossed business card, Michael Warren, CEO, Strategy Investments. The next day, everything happened just as Michael had promised. Alina arrived, a young, energetic woman with a kind smile. "Mr. Warren told me everything. Don't worry, I'll handle it all." She handed Sarah a shopping bag full of clothes. "Mr. Warren said to buy everything you might need." She helped with the paperwork and called a cab. During the ride, Alina chatted nonstop. "The apartment is beautiful, you'll love it. Mr. Warren bought it a year ago but never actually stayed there. He's always traveling or at his country house. You know, I've worked for him for 5 years, and I've never seen him like this. He called early this morning, told me to arrange everything, and even sent me to get baby supplies." The apartment turned out to be more than beautiful, it was breathtaking. Sarah stood in the doorway, afraid to step inside. A huge living room with floor-to-ceiling windows, a modern kitchen, 3 bedrooms. "You can set up the nursery here," Alina chirped. "And this is the main bedroom. The fridge is stocked, I had groceries delivered. Here's the pediatrician's number, just in case. Oh, and Mr. Warren asked me to give you this." She handed Sarah an envelope. Inside was a generous amount of cash and a note. "For the first days. Please don't refuse, it's not charity, it's help. M.W." After Alina left, Sarah slowly walked through the apartment. She ran her hand over the soft couch, peeked into the fridge filled with food, gently placed Leo into the new crib that Alina had arranged to have assembled, then sat down on the edge of the enormous bed, and broke down crying. She cried for a long time, letting out all the fear of the past months, the pain of betrayal, the humiliation of pitying looks. Then she got up, washed her face, and looked at herself in the mirror. "Well, Sarah," she whispered, "looks like you've been given a second chance. Don't waste it." The first few days in the apartment felt like a dream. Sarah woke up every morning unable to believe it was real. Hot water from the tap, a soft bed, silence instead of the noise of a train station. She tried not to think about what would happen when the owner came back, just enjoyed each moment of this brief peace, a gift from fate in the form of a stranger with sad gray eyes. Meanwhile, in London, Michael sat in his 5-star hotel room, unable to focus on the documents in front of him. The negotiations were going perfectly, a $50 million contract was practically secured. But his mind kept drifting back to New York. How was she? Settling in? Was she frightened by such a place? He picked up his phone several times to call Alina, to ask, but stopped himself. It was foolish. He'd done a good deed, end of story. No need to get attached. By the 3rd day, Michael gave in and installed the smart home app on his phone. When he'd bought the apartment, he'd ordered the full package, cameras in every room, just in case he ever decided to rent it out. He'd completely forgotten about them. Now he hesitated. This was crossing a line. Unethical. But curiosity won. He opened the app, selected the camera in the living room, and froze. Sarah was sitting on the floor beside the couch, singing softly. A gentle lullaby in a language he didn't recognize, something old, melodic. Leo lay on a blanket beside her, waving his tiny hands, gazing up at his mother. She wore a simple robe, her hair tied back, no makeup. And she was beautiful. Not the polished beauty Michael saw at social galas, but something real. The beauty of motherhood, of peace, of a person who'd finally found a bit of safety. Michael closed the app and leaned back against the pillow. What was happening to him? Why did this stranger move him so deeply? He tried to remember the last time he'd felt anything like it. Maybe never. Even with Victoria, his ex-fiancée, it had all been logical. They matched in status, in interests, in business. And then he'd learned she loved his money, not him. For the next few days, Michael tried not to look again. He buried himself in work, 16-hour days, business dinners, but his thoughts kept circling back to that apartment in Manhattan. Finally, he gave in and opened the app once more. This time, Sarah was in the kitchen, cooking something while humming softly. On the table sat his laptop, the one he'd left in the office. Michael frowned, but then saw the screen, an online course titled Basic Accounting for Beginners. She was studying? Over the next week, he watched in fragments, like someone following a series. Sarah woke early, fed the baby, then studied. She took notes in a notebook, probably one she'd bought with the money he left. Then she cooked, cleaned, cared for Leo, and studied again in the evening. She never touched anything she didn't need, never snooped through drawers. He checked the other cameras, same thing. She barely even used the TV, and when she did, it was just for the news. On the 8th day, something unexpected happened. Michael was about to leave for a meeting when he saw an unfamiliar woman appear on the living room camera. Tall blonde, expensive fur coat. Wait, that was the woman from the train station. The one who'd sneered at Sarah. How the hell had she gotten in? Michael turned on the audio. Playing the good girl now, huh? The blonde's voice was sharp with contempt. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize you? The beggar from the station. How did you even get into a place like this? Sarah stood clutching Leo to her chest. I live here. Temporarily. The owner gave me permission. The owner? The blonde laughed harshly. Do you even know who owns this apartment? Michael Warren. My fiancé. Michael almost dropped his phone. Fiancé? That was Christina Zakowski, his business partner's daughter. Sure, Zakowski had hinted about wanting to join families, and yes, Christina had been throwing herself at him every time they met, but he had never given her a reason to think they were engaged. I came to prepare a surprise for his return, Christina went on. I have keys, he gave them to me himself. And you're trespassing. Get out now, or I'm calling the police. I have keys too, Sarah said firmly. And permission to stay here. Don't make me laugh. Michael would never let a poor woman live in his apartment. You stole them, or forged them. Christina pulled out her phone. Hello, police? I found a strange woman in my fiancé's apartment. Yes, she clearly broke in illegally. The address is... Sarah turned pale. Please, don't. I have a baby. We'll leave, just let me pack our things. No packing. Whatever you stole is enough. And that child of yours, child services will take him. People like you shouldn't be raising kids. Michael quickly dialed Alina's number. Get to the Manhattan apartment right now. Christina Zakowski is there, get her out. I don't care how, just make it happen. Yes, immediately. Then he called Christina. He watched her on screen as she pulled out her phone, saw his name, and smiled sweetly. Mikey. Baby, I'm at your place, wanted to surprise you, but there's this. Christina, get out of there. Now. What? But there's some beggar. She's my guest. Leave immediately, or I'll call your father and tell him about Aspen. Remember? The cocaine? There was silence on the other end. You're blackmailing me? I'm protecting my guest. Get out, and hand the keys to the concierge. You stole them, you were never supposed to have them. Christina flushed crimson on the screen, then hung up. Today's your lucky day, she hissed at Sarah. But it won't last. I'll find out what lies you told him and throw you out myself. Remember me, I'm Christina Zakowski, and I don't forgive. She stormed out, slamming the door. Sarah sank onto the couch. On the screen, Michael could see her hands shaking. Leo started crying, and she gently rocked him, whispering, Hush, my baby, hush. It's okay. Everything's okay. But tears streamed down her face. 15 minutes later, Alina arrived, breathless. Sarah, are you all right? Mr. Warren called. He said some woman was bothering you. It's fine. She's gone. That was Christina Zakowski, right? Oh, that leech. She's been circling around Mr. Warren for 3 years, and he won't give her the time of day. Where on earth did she get the keys? Alina stayed for about an hour, calming Sarah down over tea. Don't worry. Mr. Warren said you can stay here, and when he decides something, he doesn't go back on it. When Alina left, Sarah sat in the dark for a long time, thinking. This world wasn't made for her, the world of people with apartments like this, where blonde women in fur coats thought they had the right to humiliate others. Maybe she should really leave. But where? Back to the station? To the aunt who didn't want her? Michael turned off the camera and canceled his evening meeting. He paced the hotel room like a caged animal. He hadn't expected Christina to barge into the apartment. How had she even gotten keys? Probably bribed someone from the maintenance company. And why did it make him so furious that she'd called herself his fiancée? But it wasn't just that. It was the way Sarah had stood there, protecting her child, ready to leave but refusing to beg. The quiet dignity she'd shown in the face of cruelty. The next day, Michael could barely sit through the negotiations. The contract was signed, partners were celebrating, but all he could think about was getting back to New York. The earliest flight wasn't for 3 more days. That evening, he turned the camera on again, just to make sure everything was fine. Sarah was putting Leo to bed, singing the same lullaby. But now there was sadness in her voice. When the baby fell asleep, she took Michael's business card, stared at it for a long time, typed a number, then deleted it. Finally, she found the courage to call. Michael froze when he saw her name on the screen. His first impulse was to answer, but what would he say? Hi, I've been watching you through the cameras? He let the call ring out. On screen, Sarah lowered her phone, paused, and then sent a message. Good evening, Mr. Warren. This is Sarah. Thank you for everything. Leo and I are fine. Sorry for bothering you. Michael reread the message 10 times. He wanted to reply but didn't know how. Finally, he typed. Hello, Sarah. I'm glad you're both doing well. If you need anything, contact Elena. I'll be back in 3 days. M.W. He hit send and instantly regretted how cold it sounded. But it was too late to change it. The remaining days in London dragged endlessly. Michael kept checking the cameras. Sarah went on studying, taking Leo for walks in the courtyard, cooking. One afternoon, an elderly, elegant woman appeared. My dear, I'm Eleanor, from the 3rd floor. I've seen you walking with your baby. If you ever need help, just ask. I'm a retired pediatrician. Sarah's face lit up with a grateful smile. Thank you so much. I'm Sarah. We're only here for a while. So what? Neighbors should help each other, even temporary ones. Eleanor began visiting every day, bringing homemade pies, children's books left from her grandkids, teaching Sarah how to bathe the baby properly and when to start solid foods. You're doing wonderfully, dear, she'd say. It's clear your baby is cared for and loved, and that's what really matters. For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt accepted just as she was. Then came the day of Michael's return. He landed at LaGuardia early in the morning. He could have gone straight to his house outside the city, but instead, his feet carried him to the car, and he gave the driver the Manhattan address. All the way there, he told himself he was just checking on the apartment. Nothing personal. He unlocked the door and froze. From the kitchen came the smell of freshly baked pie and the sound of running water. Sarah was washing dishes, humming softly. A pie cooled on the table. She turned suddenly, gasped, and dropped a plate that shattered on the floor. Mr. Warren, I didn't know you were coming today. She knelt to pick up the pieces. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up. We'll leave right away, I just need to pack. Wait, Michael stepped closer. There's no need to leave. You've cut yourself. A bead of blood appeared on her finger. He took her hand gently, examined the cut. Where's the first aid kit? In the bathroom, but I can. He didn't listen. He fetched it, disinfected the wound, and put on a bandage. All the while, Sarah stood frozen, barely breathing. There, he said quietly. Now tell me how you've been. They sat in the living room. Haltingly, Sarah told him about Christina's visit, the kind neighbor, the accounting lessons. I want to find a job, she said, to earn my own money. I don't want to be a burden. Michael listened and couldn't believe himself. Sitting in his own apartment with a woman he'd only seen 3 times in his life, and yet he felt at home. For the first time in years. Leo started crying. Sarah jumped up. I'll get him. She returned with the baby in her arms. Would you like to hold him? She asked suddenly. Michael froze. Me? I don't know how. No one does until they try. She carefully placed the baby in his arms. Leo looked up at him with big dark eyes and smiled, a toothless, innocent grin. Something inside Michael shifted. He's smiling, he said in disbelief. He likes you, Sarah said softly, smiling too. He doesn't smile at everyone. He can tell who the good people are. They spent the next hour talking like old friends. Michael told her about London, the deal he'd closed. Sarah told him about her studies. You know, she said, I've always dreamed of learning. But in our community, girls weren't allowed. I only know how to read because my grandmother secretly taught me. And now it's like a whole new world opened up. If you'd like, I can get you into real courses, with certification, Michael offered. Sarah shook her head. No, you've already done so much for us. I need to do the rest myself. Michael wanted to argue, but his phone suddenly buzzed nonstop. Elena, his partners, the board of directors. Everyone needed his attention. I have to get to the office, he said reluctantly. But I can come back tonight, if you don't mind. Sarah raised her eyebrows in surprise. This is your apartment. But you live here now. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. You're not. Please, come. I'll make dinner. All day at the office, Michael couldn't stop thinking about the evening. His secretary was reporting something, but he kept staring out the window, smiling to himself. Mr. Warren, are you listening to me? Elena asked nervously. Huh? Oh, yes, of course. What were you saying? She studied him carefully. You're acting strange today. Are you feeling all right? I'm fine. Better than fine. That evening, He came back with a bouquet of flowers, simple daisies he couldn't resist buying from an old woman near the subway. Sarah opened the door and broke into a bright smile. Flowers? For me? Who else? She pressed the bouquet to her face. Daisies. I love them so much. They're like little sons. Dinner was simple: borscht, meat patties, salad. But Michael ate as if it were a Michelin-starred meal. This is insanely good. Where did you learn to cook like this? My grandmother taught me. She used to say you can keep a man only through his stomach. Sarah immediately blushed. I didn't mean. I know, Michael smiled. She was a wise woman. They had tea with the same pie Sarah had baked that morning. Leo slept peacefully in the crib nearby. Outside, the lights of evening New York began to glow. You know, Michael said suddenly, I haven't felt like this in a long time. Calm. Like I'm somewhere I actually belong. Sarah lowered her gaze. No one ever waited for us. Except you. Just then, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Sarah went to open it. On the doorstep stood two women, Christina and an elegantly dressed woman in her 50s. Ah, there you are. Christina exclaimed triumphantly. Mom, that's her, the poor woman I told you about. The older woman gave Sarah a cold, disdainful look. So you're the one who's trapped Warren? Don't worry, we'll expose you soon enough. What's going on here? Michael appeared in the hallway. When the older woman saw him, she smiled broadly. Mr. Warren. Finally. I'm Larissa Zakowski, Christina's mother. We came to rescue you from this con artist. Rescue me from who? Michael's voice turned to ice. Well, really. This woman obviously manipulated you. Christina told me everything. Some poor thing from the train station, with a baby no one knows who from, living in your apartment? First of all, Michael said, stepping forward to shield Sarah, this woman is my guest. Second, this is my apartment, and I decide who lives in it. And third, what the hell are you even doing here? Larissa deflated slightly but held her ground. Mr. Warren, please understand, we care about you like family. Your reputation, what will people think? I couldn't care less what people think. But your business, my husband, your partner. Exactly. My business partner, not my family. Tell Andrew that if any member of his family shows up here again, I'll terminate every contract we have. Larissa went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Now leave. Both of you. Christina, who had been silent until then, suddenly laughed bitterly. You're such a fool, Mike. Trading me for this nobody. She'll rob you blind and run, you'll see. I'd rather be robbed by an honest person than live with a calculating parasite like you. Christina shrieked and raised her hand to slap him, but Michael caught her wrist midair. Don't. Leave before I call security. When the door finally closed behind them, Sarah leaned against the wall. They're right. I'm ruining your reputation. I should go. You're not going anywhere, Michael said firmly. At least not because of those two idiots. If you want to leave of your own will, I won't stop you, but not because of them. But your business. To hell with business if it means bowing to people like the Zakowskis. They returned to the living room. Sarah was quiet for a while, then said softly, You have no idea what kind of miracle you've given me. Not the apartment, no. The faith that there are still good people in the world. That someone can help without asking for anything in return. Maybe not entirely without reason, Michael said, gazing out the window. Maybe I needed to meet someone real too. Someone genuine, not fake. Someone who can appreciate the simple things. Leo's cry came from the nursery. Sarah stood, but Michael stopped her. I'll go. He returned holding the baby, who was now wide awake, staring at him with curious eyes. You have a gift, Sarah smiled. He's usually fussy. We just understand each other. Two guys, you know. And so began the strangest, most extraordinary weeks. Michael officially lived in his country house, but every evening he came to Manhattan, had dinner, played with Leo, helped Sarah study. Look, he'd explain, debit and credit, it's like two sides of a scale. She listened carefully, took notes, asked questions. She was smart, quick to grasp everything. Sometimes they'd just sit and talk in the living room. Sarah told him about life in the religious commune, its harsh rules, her dream of breaking free. Michael told her about his lonely childhood after his father's death, building his business from scratch, Victoria's betrayal. You know what hurt most? Not that she left me, but that I never even noticed. I thought I was working for our future, but I was just a stepping stone. She's an idiot, Sarah said simply. You're amazing, kind, generous, caring. Any woman would be lucky to have a man like you. Michael smirked. Any woman, huh? What about you? Sarah blushed and turned away. Me? I don't count. I'm from another world. But somehow, their world started to merge. Michael showed her how to use every device in the apartment, took her to museums. You have to see this, it's beautiful. He bought her books. And Sarah taught him to notice small joys, the beauty of a sunset through the window, the way Leo wrinkled his nose when he didn't like his porridge, how good tea and cookies could taste on a quiet evening. One day Elena told Michael, "You've changed, Mr. Warren. You're lighter somehow. You used to be like a robot, work, home, work. Now you actually smile." Nonsense, he waved her off, but then caught his reflection in the elevator mirror and realized she was right. He had changed. And then the inevitable happened. One evening, Michael came home earlier than usual. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming. He walked up behind her, meaning to ask if she needed help. She turned, and suddenly they were standing so close their breath mingled. For a second, they just looked at each other. Then he kissed her, gently, carefully, as if afraid she might vanish. She kissed him back, and the world turned upside down. "I'm sorry," Michael whispered, pulling away. "I shouldn't have. You depend on me, it's not fair." "Don't be silly," Sarah stroked his cheek. "I don't depend on you. I could leave any time. I just don't want to, because I love you." Simple words. No drama, no passion play, just truth. And Michael realized it was the first time in his life someone had said those words and meant them. That night, he stayed. He lay beside her, watching her sleep, unable to believe this was real. He, a cynical businessman, had fallen in love like a teenager with a woman who had another man's child, and he was happier than he'd ever been. In the morning, Leo's insistent cry woke him. Michael got up, picked him up from the crib, and carried him to the kitchen. "Well, buddy, should we wake Mom or handle this ourselves?" He found the formula, mixed it, fed Leo. The baby sighed contentedly and drifted back to sleep. Michael sat there, holding him, thinking, what if? What if he didn't let this happiness slip away? What if they could be a family? Sarah woke up and panicked when she didn't see Leo in the crib. She ran to the living room and froze. Michael sat on the couch, the baby asleep in his arms. A strong man and a tiny child. She sat down beside them carefully so as not to wake them, and began to cry quietly from sheer happiness. But happiness rarely lasts without a shadow. A week later, Sarah's mother called. "Sarah," came a dry, emotionless voice. "I heard you're in New York." "Mom, how did you get my number?" "We have our ways. Now listen carefully. I'm giving you one last chance to come back. You'll marry Peter. He's agreed to take you in with the baby." "Peter? He's 50. So what? He's a respectable man. He's got money. Either you come home and do the right thing, or you no longer have a family. Your choice." Sarah hung up and burst into tears. Michael, who had just come in, rushed to her side. "What happened? Who was that?" She told him through sobs. "If I don't go back, they'll curse me. In our laws, that's terrible." "Nonsense," Michael said, pulling her into his arms. "What curse? That's medieval. You don't understand. To us, family means everything." "And what about us?" Michael asked quietly. "Aren't we family too?" Sarah looked up at him. "You want that? Us? For real?" "For real. If you do. I know it's crazy. We're from different worlds. We've only known each other a month. But I don't want to lose you. And Leo? He's not your son. He will be, if you let me." Sarah threw her arms around him. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. But your partners, your circle, they'll laugh at you. Let them. I'll be happy, and that's what matters." The next day, Michael drove to the commune. Alone, despite Sarah's protests. "I have to talk to your mother. Man to man, or rather, man to woman." The commune greeted him with suspicion. A stranger, and not one of their own. But Michael stood his ground. "I need to see Rose," Sarah's mother. Rose came out, a tall, stately woman with a hard face. "What do you want?" "I want to marry your daughter." "The one who disgraced our family?" "The one who gave birth to a beautiful son and was left alone. I'll be a good husband to her, and a father to the boy." Rose studied him coldly. "Are you rich?" "Enough." "Will you pay a bride price?" "How much?" She named an enormous sum by their standards. Michael nodded. "Fine. But on one condition, you'll take her back into the family. No blame, no humiliation. You're bargaining with me? I'm protecting my future wife." The elder of the commune came out of the house. "That's enough, Rose. The man's right. If he's willing to take her with a child and pay the price, then he loves her. And love's worth more than pride. Rose pursed her lips but nodded. All right, the wedding's in a month, by both our traditions. Deal. Michael came home elated. It's settled. Your mother agreed. Sarah couldn't believe her ears. How did you convince her? Trade secret. The main thing is, in a month, you'll be my wife. If you still want to, of course. Stupid question. But the wedding wasn't the only battle ahead. The next day, Andrew Zukowski showed up at Michael's office. You've lost your mind, marrying that woman? It's my personal life, Andrew. Your personal life? What about the company's reputation? What will investors think? If investors care more about who the CEO marries than about profits, they're the wrong investors. Zukowski turned red. I'll block all your deals. I'll destroy your business. Try it. But remember, I have copies of all your off-the-books operations. The Cayman accounts, remember? Zukowski deflated. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting my family, just like you did once. Or have you forgotten you married a janitor's daughter yourself and just pretended otherwise once you got rich? The old man went pale. How do you know that? I have a good security team, so stop playing aristocrat. We all crawled our way up from nothing. The difference is, I'm not ashamed of it. Zukowski stormed out, slamming the door. Michael leaned back in his chair and smiled. Everything was falling into place. Now came the hardest part, introducing Sarah to his mother. Gloria Warren had been living in Switzerland for the past 10 years. After her husband's death, she'd sold everything in the States and moved away. Michael visited her once a year. Their relationship was polite but distant. She thought he buried himself in work. He thought she'd run away from her grief instead of moving on. Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm getting married. Over the video call, he saw her face light up. Finally. To whom? I hope she's a good match. She's wonderful, but unusual. And Michael told her everything. There was a long pause. Mom, you still there? I am. Just surprised. A woman from a poor commune? With a child? Yes. And I love her. And I love the child, too. Another pause. When's the wedding? In 3 weeks. I'll come. Really? Of course. I need to meet the woman who made my son happy. And judging by your voice, you are happy. The meeting between Gloria and Sarah was nerve-wracking. Sarah was so anxious she broke a teacup, then almost dropped Leo. I'm sorry, I don't often meet women like you. I don't often meet my son's brides either, Gloria smiled. Let's drop the formality, and let me hold my grandson. Grandson? Sarah blinked. Well, what else would he be? If Michael's his father, I'm the grandmother. Simple logic. She took Leo in her arms, and he immediately grabbed her necklace. Ow, you little rascal. Just like your grandpa, he loved shiny things too. The ice was broken. Gloria stayed a week, helping with the wedding preparations. You'll need 2 dresses, one for the ceremony, one for the commune wedding. And both have to be fit for a queen. She took Sarah shopping, picking out outfits herself. This one, red for the commune, white for City Hall. You'll look like a princess. Sarah later told Michael, your mom is amazing. I thought she'd hate me. She came from humble beginnings herself. My dad married her against his family's wishes, so she understands you better than you think. The wedding turned out perfect. First, a modest civil ceremony at City Hall with only close friends. Then a celebration at the commune, songs, dancing, bonfires until dawn. Michael danced with cheerful abandon. Sarah had been teaching him for 2 weeks, and the old commune leader clapped him on the back, laughing. Our kind of man. Christina and her mother tried to cause a scandal. They showed up at City Hall with reporters. But Michael's security stopped them at the entrance, and instead, he gave the journalists an exclusive interview. Yes, I'm marrying the woman I love. Yes, she has a child, and I'm adopting him. So what? Does that really shock anyone in the 21st century? The next morning, the papers ran the headline, Romantic Businessman, a love story that began at a train station. Public opinion split. Some admired him, others sneered, but Michael didn't care. He was happy. A year passed. Sarah earned her accounting degree and got a job, deliberately at another company, so no one could say she'd gotten it through him. Leo started preschool and became the teacher's favorite, and Michael discovered that his business hadn't suffered at all. In fact, several major investors said they respected his honesty and courage. Gloria moved to New York. I want to be near my grandson. She settled into that same Manhattan apartment. There's good energy here. This is where your happiness began. As for the Zukowskis, Christina married an aging millionaire who ran off with her best friend 6 months later. Larissa tried to sue but lost every case. Andrew quietly put his family's affairs in order. One evening, Michael came home, to their country house now, and found a heartwarming sight. Sarah was teaching Leo, now walking and babbling his first words, how to dance. Like this, sweetheart, step step. Leo stomped his little feet and laughed. When he saw Michael, he squealed. Daddy. Michael froze. What did he just say? Daddy. He's been calling you that for a week now. You don't mind, do you? Michael scooped his son up in his arms. Mind? That's the best word I've ever heard. Sarah wrapped her arms around them both. You know, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if you just walked past me that day at the station. I don't know. I'd probably still be the same cold-hearted cynic. And I'd never have known what real love is. Nonsense. Someone like you would have found her prince. I already did. At the train station. The three of them stood together, a strange, improbable, but perfectly happy family. A businessman, a woman from a poor commune, and a little boy blessed with loving parents. On the fireplace mantel stood a photo from that day at the station. Someone had captured the moment when Michael held Sarah's hand during labor and later sent them the picture. A reminder that sometimes life brings people together in the most unexpected ways. 2 more years passed. Sarah gave birth to a daughter, a dark-eyed beauty, a perfect little copy of her mother. They named her Sophia, after Michael's grandmother. Leo proudly declared he would protect his sister from all bullies. I'm the big brother, after all. Michael's business was thriving. His story had drawn international attention. Partners admired that he stood by his principles and refused to bow to public opinion. He signed contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Sarah opened her own small accounting firm, helping new entrepreneurs from her old community learn to run their businesses legally. We can't live by fortune-telling and odd jobs forever. We can work, build businesses, be part of society. Rose, her mother, grumbled at first. That's not our way. But when she saw how many people her daughter had helped, she softened. Maybe you're right. Times are changing. She even started taking English classes to speak properly with my grandkids. Eleanor, the retired pediatrician from their old building, became Sophia's godmother. I always dreamed of having grandchildren, but God never gave me children. Now I have all of you. She came every weekend, played with the kids, and taught them to read. And then something happened that changed everything again. Leo's biological father, the one who'd abandoned Sarah, suddenly showed up. He came straight to Michael's office. Christopher Peterson, a successful government official. I heard you married Sarah. So what? She has my son. She has our son. I adopted him. Peterson's face turned red. But biologically, he's mine. Biologically, you're just a sperm donor. A father is someone who raises, loves, and protects his child. I'll take this to court. Go ahead. Just remember, I have recordings of you rejecting the baby and insulting his mother, and witnesses who'll confirm it. Peterson deflated instantly. What do you want? I want you gone. Never show up in Leo's life again. He's a happy child with loving parents. Don't you dare ruin that. And if I insist, then I'll go public, with every detail of how a respected official abandoned a pregnant woman. Your career will be over. Peterson left, and never came back. That night, Michael hugged his son tighter than usual. Daddy, what's wrong? Leo asked. Nothing, buddy. I just love you. I love you too, Daddy. You're the best dad in the world. Life flowed on. The kids grew, the business flourished, and their love only deepened. Sometimes Michael would open the security app linked to the old Manhattan apartment, now Sarah's office, and watch her working, focused and serious, unable to believe how lucky he was. What are you thinking about? Sarah asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. About how lucky I am. If not for that day at the station. If not for your kind heart. Someone else would have walked past. Maybe it was fate. Or a guardian angel. My angel is you. They stood on the terrace of their home, watching the children play in the garden. Leo was teaching Sophia to ride a bike, and she squealed with excitement. Gloria sat in a lounge chair knitting, Eleanor beside her reading a book. Pure peace. You know, Sarah said, I want to write a book. About us. A book? Yes. So people will know, love doesn't care about nationality, class, or past mistakes. Love just happens. And you have to be brave enough to fight for it. Write it. I'll be your first reader. The book came out a year later. The Woman from the Station became a bestseller. People cried reading the story of a love that began in humiliation and pain but ended in happiness. Letters poured in from all over the country, from women who'd found the strength to leave abusive husbands, from men who dared to love across social divides, from teenagers who started believing in love again. Even Christina came to the book launch, older now, with a trace of bitterness on her face. "I want to apologize," she said to Sarah. "I was awful. I was just jealous. You got what I tried to buy, real love." Sarah hugged her. "It's not too late to find your own. The only thing that matters is being sincere." And Michael stood a little to the side, smiling. His Sarah had won not just his heart, but the hearts of thousands, because she was real. No masks, no pretense, no lies. That night, they lay in bed, tired but happy. "Mike, do you remember when you told me you'd installed cameras in the apartment?" Sarah suddenly asked. Michael tensed. "Well, yes. Why? Did you watch them? Back when you were in London?" Silence. "I did," he finally admitted. "I'm sorry. It was wrong. What did you see? How you sang to Leo. How you studied. How you cried at night." "Cried? From happiness, you said it yourself once." Sarah turned toward him. "You know, I'm glad you watched." "Really?" "Yes. Because you saw the real me. No makeup, no filters. And you still came back. You still loved me. I loved you from that day at the station. When you stood up for your unborn child. You had so much strength and dignity. And I loved you when you took off your coat and laid it on the dirty floor. A prince who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty for a stranger. Not a stranger. Mine. I just didn't know it yet." They fell silent, listening to the soft breathing of their children in the next room. True happiness isn't loud. It's quiet, homey, real. It's falling asleep beside someone you love and knowing they'll still be there in the morning. 5 years had passed since that day at the station. Michael stood in the exact same spot where he'd once seen a guard shaking a pregnant woman. Now, a new sign hung above the entrance, the Warren Center for Women in Crisis. Their foundation. "Ready?" Sarah asked, taking his hand. "Ready." They stepped inside. The hall was full of women, pregnant, tired, some with children, but with hope shining in their eyes. "Hello," Sarah began. "My name is Sarah Warren. 5 years ago, I was in your place, pregnant, broke, homeless. Right here, in this station. And I want you to know, there's always a way out. There's always someone willing to help." Michael watched her speak, confident, calm, kind. His Sarah had become a successful businesswoman, yet she was still the same warm, genuine woman he'd fallen in love with. After the presentation, a young woman with a baby came up to them. "Thank you. If it weren't for your center, I don't know what would have happened. My husband left, my parents turned their backs, and you gave me shelter, work, hope." "Pass it on," Sarah said with a smile. "Kindness should multiply." That evening, during dinner, 6-year-old Leo spoke up importantly. "Mom, Dad, I've decided. I'm going to be a doctor, like the man who helped you when I was born." "Dr. Stephen?" Michael smiled. "Excellent choice, son. And I'll be like Mommy." 4-year-old Sophia squeaked. "I'll help people. And I'll be an astronaut," announced 3-year-old Daniel, their youngest. Sarah and Michael exchanged a look and laughed. Their kids were growing up kind, open, ready to make the world better. What more could they ask for? "Daddy, tell us how you met Mommy," Sophia begged. They all knew the story by heart but wanted to hear it again. "Well," Michael began, "I was rushing to the airport one day and saw a beautiful princess at the station, though she didn't look like a princess at the time." "Hey," Sarah interrupted, laughing. "But I saw her true beauty. And I knew it was fate." The children listened with wide eyes. Outside, snow was falling, the fireplace crackled, and the world felt perfectly right. Because sometimes miracles do happen, you just can't walk past them. The epilogue came 10 years later. Leo had gone to medical school, just as he dreamed. At his graduation, he stepped up to the stage. "I want to thank my parents. My mom, for giving me life and teaching me to fight. My dad, for showing me what real care and responsibility look like. You're the best parents in the world." Sarah wept openly. Michael squeezed her hand, his own eyes wet. Their son, the baby who'd been born on a station floor, was now a doctor, ready to save lives. After the ceremony, an older man approached them. Michael recognized him immediately, the security guard from the station. "Please forgive me," the man said to Sarah. "I was wrong back then. I've followed your story all these years. You're both amazing." "It's all in the past," Sarah said softly. And it was true. The past stayed there, in that cold train station. The present and the future were here, in the warmth of family, in the home they'd built together with love. Michael hugged his wife. Thank you. For what? For not walking past my life. For teaching me how to love. For making me a better man. You made me one too, she whispered. You gave me the chance to become who I am. They stood there, holding each other, not young anymore, but still just as in love. Around them, their children laughed, their grandchildren took their first steps, and life went on. Somewhere above, a guardian angel smiled, the one who'd once stopped a hurried businessman in front of a crying woman. Because some encounters are destined. You just have to be brave enough to accept the gift. And on their mantel still stood that same photo from the station, and the keys to the Manhattan apartment. The keys to happiness, born out of pain, that led them to true love. Next to it was a screenshot from that old security camera, Sarah singing a lullaby to baby Leo. The moment that changed everything. Dad, is it true you spied on Mom? An adult Sophia once asked. I did, Michael admitted. And I saw a miracle. I saw love being born. That's not fair. Love rarely is, sweetheart. It comes when you least expect it, and turns your whole world upside down. And that's a good thing? It's the best thing there is. The story of Michael and Sarah became a city legend. Books were written, movies made, but they continued living simply, raising their children, running their foundation, loving each other. Because real happiness doesn't need grand declarations. It lives in coming home each night to where someone is waiting for you, to the light in the windows, the smell of dinner, and the most precious word in the world, home. And if you ever find yourself at a train station and see someone in trouble, don't walk past. Maybe it's destiny knocking. Maybe that encounter will change your whole life, just as it changed the lives of a cynical businessman and a proud woman who found each other in the most unlikely place, at the most unlikely time, and built a real love. Because love doesn't choose. It just happens. And when it does, don't let it slip away. Even if the whole world stands against you. Even if it feels insane. Because the madness of love is the only kind that makes us truly alive. The story seemed to have ended, but life still had surprises in store. 15 years after that fateful day at the station, Michael was jolted awake by a phone call. It was 3 a.m. Dad? Leo's voice trembled. Dad, I'm at the police station. Michael shot up in bed. What happened? Are you hurt? I'm okay. I tried to defend a girl. Some drunk guys were harassing her. I stepped in, a fight broke out. Dad, one of them is Congressman Craig's son. Michael dressed in seconds. Sarah woke up, alarmed. What's wrong with Leo? Everything's going to be fine. I'll handle it. But his voice carried tension. Congressman Craig was a powerful, vindictive man. This could end badly. The police station was chaos. Craig's lawyer was already there, demanding Leo's arrest. Your son broke Arthur Craig's nose. That's an assault on a government official. Michael saw his son, bruised, his lips split, but standing straight, his eyes clear and fearless. Next to him sat a young woman, maybe 20, tear-streaked, her dress torn. What happened? Michael asked. The girl looked up. There were 3 of them. They grabbed me, wouldn't let go. I screamed, but no one helped. Then he showed up, she nodded toward Leo. He told them to stop. They attacked him. Lies, shouted the younger Craig, holding his nose. We were just talking, and this psycho jumped us. Then an unexpected witness stepped forward, a gray-haired security guard from a nearby store. I saw everything, the man said firmly. The kid was protecting her. Those 3 were drunk and aggressive. If it weren't for him, who knows what would have happened. I've got it all on camera. He handed the flash drive to the investigator. After reviewing the footage, the case collapsed. Craig Jr. and his friends were clearly the aggressors. But Congressman Craig didn't back down. The next day, headlines exploded across the media. Son of a woman from a poor commune attacks congressman's son. Bad blood runs deep, Warren raises a thug. Sarah cried as she read the filth. It's my fault. Leo's suffering because of me. Nonsense, Michael said, holding her tight. Our son's a hero. He defended a girl like a real man. But they'll destroy him. His medical school, his future. They won't. I won't let them. Michael hired the best lawyers and sued every outlet for defamation. Meanwhile, his security team dug into Craig's background. What they found was gold, corruption, bribes, ties to organized crime. Should we release it? Asked the head of security. Not yet. That's our trump card. Leo held his head high. He kept going to class, ignoring the stares. The girl he'd saved, her name was Alice, came to thank him. "You're my hero. If not for you, anyone would have done the same," Leo said, embarrassed. "No, not anyone. There were dozens of people there. Only you stepped in." Alice was a music student, a pianist. They started meeting up, first as friends, then something more. "Mom, Dad, this is Alice," Leo said a month later, bringing her home. The girl was shy, but Sarah immediately hugged her. "Thank you for being in our son's life." But Craig wouldn't quit. He began pressuring the medical school, demanding Leo's expulsion. The dean was frantic. "Mr. Warren, I can't stand up to a congressman." So Michael went all in. He held a press conference and released every shred of evidence against Craig. The scandal was explosive. Within a week, Craig was arrested. A month later, he was convicted. "You took a big risk," Sarah said. "He could have destroyed our company." "No one threatens my kids. No one." There was steel in his voice, and once again Sarah thought how lucky she was to have him. Meanwhile, Sophia was finishing high school. A talented artist, she dreamed of attending the Cooper Union School of Art. "Dad, what if I don't get in?" "You will. You're my daughter, stubborn and gifted." The whole family came to support her at the exams. When they announced she'd been accepted, Sarah burst into tears of joy. The youngest, Daniel, at 13 was the spitting image of his father, serious, thoughtful, but kind. "Mom, can I bring a friend for dinner?" he asked one evening. He showed up with a skinny boy from a troubled family. "This is Vince. He's awesome, just unlucky." Vince quickly became part of the family. Turned out he was a math prodigy, but his parents didn't care. Michael arranged for him to attend a gifted student academy and paid for his tuition. "Why are you doing this?" Vince asked one day. "Because once, someone helped me," Sarah said. "Now it's our turn to help others. That's how kindness works, it circles back." Gloria, Sarah's mother-in-law, was 75 but still full of energy. "I'm going to write my memoirs," she announced. And she did. Her book, The Professor's Wife, became a sensation, the story of a simple girl who married an aristocrat and survived every trial. "You're my inspiration," she told Sarah. "You and Michael proved that love is stronger than prejudice. You're our inspiration. You accepted me when you could have turned away." "Nonsense. I saw how my son glowed around you. What more could a mother wish for?" Their foundation had grown into a nationwide network of support centers. Sarah personally oversaw each one. "We must never forget where we came from," she reminded her staff. Among the women the foundation helped was a young woman named Marina, pregnant, thrown out by her parents because the baby's father was from another background. "I don't know what to do," Marina sobbed. "I'm scared to give birth. I have nowhere to go." Sarah embraced her. "I was in the exact same place once. And you know what? It was the beginning of my happiness. Don't give up." She got Marina into a shelter, helped her through the delivery and into a job. A year later, Marina married the baby's father. His parents had finally accepted her. And then tragedy struck. Michael was in a car accident. A truck swerved into oncoming traffic. 3 weeks in a coma. The doctors gave no guarantees. Sarah never left his side. "You're not leaving me, you hear? We have kids, we'll have grandkids. You promised to grow old with me." The children came every day. Leo, now a medical resident, consulted the best doctors. Sophia painted portraits of her father and hung them in his hospital room. Daniel read aloud. "Dad loved history, maybe my voice will reach him." Alice played piano in the hospital lobby. They say music helps people wake up. On the 21st day, Michael opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Sarah's face. "Don't cry, my love. I told you, I'd never leave you." She burst into tears again, but this time from joy. Recovery was slow but steady. Within 6 months, Michael was walking. A year later, he was back at work. "You know what I saw while I was in the coma?" he asked one night. "What?" "That day at the station. Over and over. And every time, I had to choose, walk away or help you. It felt like my whole life came down to that one choice. The right choice. The best one I ever made." Leo married Alice. The wedding was small but beautiful. During his toast, Leo said, "I want to thank my parents. They taught me the most important thing. Love doesn't choose, it just happens. And when it does, you have to be brave enough to fight for it." A year later, their first granddaughter was born, Sarah Jr. In honor of Grandma, Leo announced. Sarah wept as she held the tiny baby in her arms. "When I was your age, I was alone, rejected by everyone. But you were born into a loving family. Be happy, little one." Sophia married a French artist she'd met at an exhibition in Paris. Mom, Dad, this is Jean-Paul. Her parents exchanged knowing looks, another unequal match, another union between worlds. But once they saw how the two looked at each other, they relaxed. Love doesn't ask for permission, Michael said. Daniel surprised everyone by becoming a writer. His first novel, a sci-fi adventure, became a bestseller. Where did you get the talent? Michael asked in wonder. From Mom. She's the creative one in the family. Sarah blushed. Creative? I'm just an accountant. You turned our life into a work of art, Michael said. Vince, the friend Daniel once brought home, became a successful programmer. He founded a startup and sold it for millions. The first thing he did was create a foundation to help gifted kids from low-income families. It's my way of thanking the Warrens. You gave me a chance. Rose, Sarah's mother, lived to 80. Before she passed, she asked to see her daughter. Forgive me. I was wrong to throw you out. Mom, I forgave you long ago. You found happiness against all odds. You're a true woman, strong and proud. And your husband, I misjudged him. He's a real man. After the funeral, Sarah couldn't stop crying. Michael held her in silence, letting her grieve. She did love me, Sarah said quietly. She just didn't know how to show it. Of course she loved you. You were her blood, her continuation. The traditions were just stronger than her for a while. But in the end, she broke free of them. The commune welcomed Sarah as a heroine. Young women came to her for advice, how to live in the modern world without losing their roots. Never deny who you are, she told them. But don't be afraid to change. The world is big, there's room for everyone. Eleanor, their beloved neighbor, lived to 90. Right up to the end, she came over, playing with the great-grandkids. You're my family, she used to say. My only and dearest one. When she passed, everyone cried. Hundreds came to the funeral, former patients, neighbors, friends. She was an angel, someone said. And everyone nodded. Then something unexpected happened. A frail, gray-haired man showed up at Michael's office, sickly, stooped. It was Christopher Peterson, Leo's biological father. I'm dying. Cancer, final stage. I want to ask for forgiveness. Michael wanted to throw him out, but something stopped him. Ask Sarah and Leo. They won't forgive me, and they shouldn't. I was a coward. But I want you to know, I've followed him all these years. I've seen what a remarkable man he's become. Because of you. Peterson handed him an envelope. This is my will. Everything I have goes to Leo. It's not much, but it's honest. I tried to make things right these last few years. Michael took the envelope. I'll give it to him. It's his decision. Peterson nodded and left. A month later, he was gone. Leo thought long and hard about what to do with the inheritance. In the end, he donated it to the foundation. Let this money help kids whose fathers abandoned them. A sort of redemption. Sarah hugged her son. You're wiser than I am. I could never have forgiven. I didn't forgive, Mom. But anger poisons the soul. I have a daughter now. I want to be an example for her. Little Sarah grew up an extraordinary child. At 3, she announced, I'm going to be a doctor like Daddy, a painter like Aunt Sophia, and a writer like Uncle Daniel. What about being an accountant like Grandma? No, that's boring. Sarah pretended to pout, but her eyes sparkled with laughter. Jean-Paul, Sophia's husband, turned out to be a wonderful son-in-law. He brought his parents from France to meet the family. They were shocked at first, but Sarah won them over with her warmth and her borscht. Magic! Exclaimed Monsieur Dupont Sr., devouring his third bowl. Sophia later gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. They named them Michael and Rose, after their grandparents. Now we're truly international, Daniel laughed. Americans, French, and still one big family. Daniel was the last to marry. His bride was Yuki, a Japanese translator of his books. They met at a book fair in Tokyo. Mom, Dad, I know this is unexpected. Son, in our family, nothing's unexpected anymore, Sarah laughed. They held 3 ceremonies, a civil one in New York, a traditional wedding in Tokyo, and a big celebration at the commune. The villagers adored the Japanese customs. The Japanese guests were enchanted by the dancing. Best wedding of the century, declared the commune elder. Yuki turned out to be not only a translator but also a gifted manager. She took charge of Daniel's career, and within a year, his novels were known worldwide. Behind every successful man stands a wise woman, Michael said, glancing lovingly at Sarah. The Warren Foundation earned international recognition. The UN invited Sarah to speak at a conference on women's rights. She stood at the podium, sharing her story, and the audience wept. Every woman deserves a chance. Every mother deserves support. Don't turn away from someone else's pain. After her speech, an elegant silver-haired woman approached her. My name is Victoria. I am your husband's former fiancée. Sarah stiffened. I came to apologize, not to you, to him. I was a fool. I traded a real man for the illusion of wealth. The one I left him for dumped me within a year, and only then did I realize what I'd lost. Michael's happy, Sarah said calmly. He has a wonderful family. I know. I've followed your story. You gave him what I never could, real love, a family, a purpose. Thank you for that. Victoria left, and Sarah watched her go. She felt no anger, no triumph, only compassion for a woman who had lost her chance at happiness. That evening, she told Michael. He grew thoughtful. You know, I'm grateful to her. For what? If she hadn't left, I never would have met you. I'd have married for status, lived an empty life. Instead, I have you, our children, our grandchildren. Real happiness. For their silver anniversary, 300 guests filled the hall, friends, colleagues, members of the commune, families their foundation had helped. 25 years ago, Michael said in his toast, I stopped to help a stranger at a train station. That one decision made me the richest man in the world, not in money, but in love. That night, Sarah sang. The same lullaby she'd once sung to baby Leo in that empty apartment. Only now, she was surrounded by dozens of loving faces. Little Sarah sang along, the twins clapped their hands, and even reserved Yuki couldn't hold back her tears. Then Leo announced big news. He'd been appointed chief physician at the maternity hospital, the very same one where he was born. The circle is complete, he said. Now I'll help other women, just like someone once helped my mom. Sophia opened her own art gallery. Her first exhibition, Faces of Love, featured portraits of family members. The central painting showed Michael and Sarah at the train station, recreated from that very photograph. This is where it all began, she told journalists. Daniel won a literary award for his novel Keys to Happiness, a fictionalized version of his parents' story. It's not exactly about them, he explained. It's about all of us, about the choices that change our lives. The grandchildren were growing up fast. Little Sarah, at 5, declared she'd only marry a prince. Like Grandma. Everyone laughed, and Michael winked at her. Princes come in all shapes and forms. Sometimes they show up in fancy coats at train stations. The twins, Michael and Rose, couldn't have been more different. He was quiet and thoughtful, she was fire and storm. Who does she take after? Sophia wondered. Her great-grandmother, Sarah replied. My mother was just like that when she was young. Daniel and Yuki had a son, whom they named Kenzo Alexander, after both grandfathers. The boy grew up immersed in 3 cultures and, by the age of 5, spoke 3 languages fluently. Future diplomat, Michael predicted. Then trouble came. Doctors found a tumor in Sarah's body. It was benign and operable, but terrifying all the same. The surgery was performed by Leo himself, now the best surgeon in the hospital. His hands never trembled, though his heart was breaking. You'll be fine, Mom. I promise. Recovery was slow. Michael never left her side, just as she once hadn't left his. He read aloud, told her funny stories, reminded her of their early days. Remember how you used to sing to Leo? Sing to me. And she did, softly, weakly, but she sang. 3 months later, Sarah was back on her feet. The first thing she did was go to the train station, to that same spot. Why? Michael asked. To say thank you. To fate, to God, to chance, I don't even know. But if not for that day, none of this would exist. They stood holding each other amid the rush of travelers, the clatter of trains, yet in their own quiet world. Do you know what I dream about? Sarah asked. What? That our story inspires others. That people stop being afraid to love. Stop being afraid to be themselves. As if on cue, a young woman approached them, clearly not local, her eyes frightened. Excuse me, could you tell me? And then Michael noticed, she was pregnant, lost, and scared. History was repeating itself. How can we help? Sarah asked gently. The girl burst into tears. The same story the father left. My parents kicked me out. I came to stay with a friend, but she didn't show up. Come with us, Sarah said firmly. Michael smiled. His wife hadn't changed a bit. The girl's name was Svetlana. They got her into one of the foundation centers, helped her give birth, find housing, and a job. A year later, she married a volunteer from the center and had another baby. You're my guardian angels, she told the Warrens. "We're just passing kindness forward," Sarah replied. And it was true. The foundation centers had already helped thousands of women. Many of them later became volunteers themselves, helping others. The circle of kindness kept growing. Michael turned 70. An old man already, he joked. "My old man," said 65-year-old Sarah, smiling. For his birthday, the entire family gathered, their 4 children. They always counted Vince as one of them, 8 grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren. Sarah Jr. had become a mother at 20. "If someone had told me at 35 that my life would turn out like this, I'd never have believed it," Michael said. They sat on the terrace, watching the great-grandkids play in the garden. "Do you regret anything?" Sarah asked. "Only one thing, that I didn't meet you sooner." That night, Sarah woke to hear Michael struggling to breathe. A heart attack. The ambulance, the ICU, the terrified faces of their children. "Hold on, my love. Don't you dare leave me." He pulled through, but the doctors warned them. His heart was weak, he'd have to be careful. "I want to visit the commune again," Michael said once he recovered. They went together, the whole family. The old leader was gone, his son now ran the place. "Michael Warren, one of us," he declared. For the first time in the commune's history, an outsider was called their own. That night, around the bonfire, Sarah sang old songs. The grandchildren and great-grandchildren listened, spellbound. "These are our roots," she told them. "Never forget who you are. Be proud of it." And Michael watched her, thinking how lucky he was to have met his love at the most unexpected moment, to have stopped instead of walking by, to have built this big, noisy, happy family. They didn't sleep that night. They sat by the dying fire, reminiscing. "If you could go back," Michael asked, "what would you change?" "Nothing. Every pain, every tear led me to you, to our happiness." "You know, I left instructions," Michael said. "When I'm gone, turn the Manhattan apartment into a museum of love." Sarah pressed closer to him. "Don't say that. We still have so much ahead." But they both knew, time is relentless. That's why they cherished every day, every hour together. They taught their grandchildren and great-grandchildren the most important things, that love has no boundaries, that kindness always returns, and that true happiness is being close to those you love. The story of Michael and Sarah became legend. Books were written, movies made, plays performed. But they themselves lived simply, loving each other, rejoicing in their family, helping others. Because real happiness doesn't need loud words. One day, a journalist came to see them, young, cynical, clearly skeptical. "All this sounds like a fairy tale. Life doesn't work that way." Sarah smiled. "Then try it. When you see someone in trouble, stop. Offer your hand. Maybe it'll change not just their life, but yours." The journalist left unconvinced. But a year later, he came back, with a wife. A girl from a shelter he'd helped on his way home. "You were right," he said. "Thank you." And another love story began. Michael often visited that same maternity hospital where Leo now worked. He'd watch the newborns and think each of them had a whole life ahead. Maybe one of them would also meet their destiny in the most unexpected place. "Grandpa, tell us about the station," the great-grandkids would ask. And he would tell them, again and again. About hurrying to the airport, about the guard and the pregnant woman, about the choice that changed everything. And I didn't walk past. Why not? Because my heart told me not to. Sarah wrote her second book, Lessons of Happiness, simple stories about finding joy in little things, about forgiveness, about love. It sold millions of copies. "You give people hope," readers wrote. For Michael's 80th birthday, the family organized a surprise, a grand celebration that brought together everyone the foundation had ever helped. Thousands of people came to say thank you, women with children, happy families, successful graduates of the foundation's programs. "You changed our lives," they said. Michael couldn't hold back his tears. "It wasn't me," he said, pointing to Sarah. "It was her. She taught me to see people, not their status. To love, not to calculate profit. To live, not just exist." That evening they danced, a slow waltz to the sound of a violin. An 80-year-old businessman and his 75-year-old wife, still in love as deeply as on the first day. "I want to die before you," Michael whispered. "Why?" "You're my air, my heart." "Silly man. We'll leave together, hand in hand, just as we lived." And as if fate had heard them, that's exactly how it happened. 5 years later, on a quiet autumn evening, they passed away in their sleep, together, holding hands. The nurse found them in the morning, peaceful expressions on their faces, their fingers intertwined. All of New York came to their funeral, the commune, the business community, thousands of grateful people. They were buried side by side, beneath one headstone that read, Michael and Sarah Warren. They proved that love is stronger than prejudice. The Manhattan apartment truly became a museum of extraordinary love. Everything inside remained untouched: the old camera, the keys, the photograph from the train station. Tour groups, newlyweds, and couples in love came to visit, making wishes before the portrait of the happy pair. Their children continued their parents' legacy. The foundation grew to an international level. Leo opened a network of free clinics. Sophia started an art therapy program for women in crisis. Daniel created a literary prize for writers whose books celebrated love and kindness. Vince launched an online platform to connect people in need with those who could help. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren scattered across the world, but every year, on the anniversary of Michael and Sarah's passing, they reunited in the old family home, sat around the big table, and remembered. They taught us the most important thing: never walk past someone in need, said Sarah Jr., now a grandmother herself. The story lived on through their children and grandchildren. Each carried the torch of kindness further. Little Kenzo became a UN diplomat, working with refugees. The twins opened a school for underprivileged kids. Great-grandchildren launched new projects, helped others, changed the world. And at the train station, on that very spot, a small plaque was placed. Here began a love story that changed thousands of lives. Don't walk past. And people didn't walk past. They stopped, read, reflected. And maybe, just maybe, the next time they saw someone in trouble, they didn't turn away. Because the story of Michael and Sarah wasn't a fairy tale. It was a reminder that inside each of us lies the power to change another person's life. You just have to stop. Reach out your hand, and maybe that one small gesture will be the start of something beautiful. Because love doesn't ask for permission. It just happens, in the most unexpected moment, in the most unlikely place, with the person you least expect. And if you're brave enough to accept it, no matter what others think, you'll find that rare, genuine happiness that no amount of money can buy. The story had ended, but its echo lived on. In every act of kindness, in every helping hand, in every love story that defied judgment. Michael and Sarah were gone, but they left behind the most important gift: faith that goodness is real, love triumphs, and miracles happen to those who don't walk past. 10 more years passed after their death. Their great-granddaughter, Sarah III, as the family called her, stood inside the Manhattan Museum apartment. She was 30, a successful psychologist, but today she had come not as a professional, as a great-granddaughter, the keeper of a family legend. "Miss Warren, look what I found," exclaimed Katie, the young museum curator. She held a worn-out notebook. It was behind the radiator in the bedroom, must have slipped there years ago. Sarah III took it and opened it. The handwriting, her great-grandmother's. A diary. The first entry dated back to the very day Sarah I had moved into the apartment. "I can't believe it. I'm sitting in a luxurious apartment. Leo's sleeping in a real crib, not on a train station bench. This man, Michael, why did he do this? Are there really still kind people in the world? I'm afraid to wake up and find it's all just a dream." Sarah III sat on the couch, the same one her great-grandparents once shared, and began to read. Page by page, the story unfolded, one she'd always known, but now from the inside, through her great-grandmother's eyes. "He came today. Brought flowers. Daisies. How did he know I loved them? He sat on the floor, playing with Leo. Such an important man, crawling around pretending to be a horse." Leo laughed. "I did too. For the first time in 6 months, I laughed sincerely. I can't help falling in love with him. I know it's madness. He's from another world. But when he looks at me, I don't feel like a poor woman anymore. I feel real, beautiful, wanted, needed. Today he told me he loves me. I cried, not from grief, from happiness. Can it be possible to feel this happy? Do I even deserve it?" Tears fell onto the pages. Sarah III wiped her eyes and kept reading. Just then, a tour group entered the museum. Among them was an elderly couple, clearly not local, maybe from out of state. The woman moved uncertainly, the man held her arm. Katie began her presentation. This apartment became a symbol of love that conquered prejudice. This is where the story of Michael and Sarah Warren began. The old woman suddenly began to sob. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Katie asked in concern. It's my fault," the woman whispered. "I'm the cafe owner who took her passport. If not for me, she never would have ended up stranded at the station." Everyone fell silent. Sarah III stood up and walked toward her. "What's your name?" Valentina. I've regretted it all my life. When I read about this story in the papers, I realized it was her, that girl. I wanted to find her, to apologize, but I never had the courage. Do you know what my great-grandmother wrote in her diary? Sarah 3 said, opening the notebook again. Everything happened exactly as it should have. Every pain, every humiliation led me to Michael. Even that woman at the cafe, she was part of my destiny. Without her, there would have been no meeting at the station. She forgave you long ago. Valentina broke down in tears. Her husband hugged her tightly. We came here on purpose, from Albany. She's carried this guilt for decades. You don't need to, Sarah 3 said softly. My great-grandmother taught us, holding on to resentment is poison for the soul. Let it go. After the tour, Valentina handed her an envelope. I can't change the past, but I want to help. This is all my savings, for the foundation. Sarah 3 wanted to refuse, but she saw the plea in the woman's eyes. All right, thank you. This will help many. Later that same day, a young man arrived at the museum, tall, dark-haired, with piercing gray eyes. I'm the great-grandson of Christopher Peterson, he said. The same one who? The biological father of Leo Warren. Sarah 3 tensed. What do you want? Understanding, the young man said earnestly. My great-grandfather was a scoundrel, that's true. But I only learned the full story recently, from my grandfather's journals. He was ashamed of his father his whole life, and I want to make amends somehow. The past can't be changed, but the future can. I'm a doctor. I want to work in your clinics, for free, as my atonement. His name was Christopher, after the ancestor he now felt ashamed of. Sarah 3 thought for a long time, then called her Uncle Leo. Bring him over, Leo said after hearing the story. I'll take a look at him myself. The meeting was tense. Leo studied the young man for a while. He looked almost like Leo himself at that age. Why should I trust you? You don't have to. Just give me a chance to prove I'm different. That blood isn't destiny. Leo was silent for a long moment. Trial period, 3 months, Leo said. At our toughest clinic in Brooklyn. If you can handle it, we'll talk. Christopher handled it, and more. He became a favorite among both patients and staff. He worked 16-hour shifts without complaint, took on the hardest cases, and once even saved a child everyone else had considered hopeless. You're hired, Leo told him afterward. And thank you. You were right, blood isn't a sentence. You proved it. Meanwhile, Sarah the Third kept reading her great-grandmother's diary. It was full of details the family had never known. Like how Michael had secretly supported the commune, building homes, sending kids to school, but always asked for anonymity. Or how Sarah had tried several times to leave, terrified she was ruining his life, and each time he found her and brought her home. The hardest thing is believing I deserve this kind of love. Sarah Sr. had written, all my life I was told I'd always be poor, worthless. But he sees me as a woman, as a person, his equal. It's frightening and liberating at the same time. Tucked between the pages was a folded letter, from Michael. My love, if you're reading this, it means you've been snooping through my papers, you curious creature. I want you to know, meeting you wasn't an accident. A week before that day, I had a dream. I was standing at a train station, and someone whispered to me, don't walk past your happiness. I woke up knowing I had to do something important. A week later, I saw you, and I knew, there it was. My happiness. The one thing I couldn't walk past. Sarah the Third showed the letter to the family. Everyone was stunned. That's some kind of magic, said Aunt Sophia. Or destiny, Uncle Daniel countered. I've always felt their story was touched by something beyond chance. Too many coincidences. Life went on. The Warren Foundation opened a branch in India to help women from the lower castes. It was led by their granddaughter Rose, who had married an Indian human rights lawyer. Great-grandma would be proud, she said over Skype. We're continuing her work on another continent. The youngest great-grandchild, 10-year-old Kenzo Jr., once brought home a stray puppy. Mom, Dad, he's just like great-great-grandma Sarah, unwanted and alone. Can we keep him? His parents exchanged a look. Genetic memory? They kept the puppy and named him Mike. Meanwhile, in the foundation's waiting room, a young woman sat clutching her 2 kids. Anna, 28, had fled from an abusive husband. He'll find me. He'll kill me, she kept saying. He's got money, connections. Linda, an experienced foundation worker, soothed her. He won't. We have safe houses, security, lawyers. You're protected here. Anna's story was heartbreaking. 5 years of abuse, beatings, humiliation. She'd escaped when her husband raised his hand at their older son. I could take it for myself, she said, but not for my children. They placed her in one of the foundation's protected homes, gave her a job, enrolled the kids in school. A month later, her husband really did find her. He stormed into the foundation's office with a group of bodyguards. "Give me back my wife, or I'll destroy all of you," he shouted. That's when Christopher, the great-grandson of Peterson, stepped forward. "Try it. Just know that there are cameras here, and your threats are already recorded. That's a criminal offense." The man glared at him. "Who the hell are you?" "A doctor with the foundation, and a man who won't let you terrorize women and children. I'll crush you." The husband's guards moved forward, but then the doors opened, and people flooded in. Dozens of them. Women and men who had once been helped by the foundation. They silently formed a wall between the aggressor and the office. "What is this, some kind of protest?" The man sneered. "This is family," Sarah III said calmly, stepping forward. "The Warren family. Not by blood, by spirit. And we protect our own." The husband tried to speak, but before he could, the police arrived. They'd been called the moment he'd shown up. Anna got her divorce quickly. The foundation's lawyers made sure of it. Her ex-husband was sentenced to 2 years for threats and attempted abduction. Anna blossomed. She got a job as an accountant. Her kids joined after-school programs. "I thought my life was over," she said. But it turns out, it was just beginning. Her story made national news. Journalists called it the Warren effect, when people come together to protect the vulnerable. Sociologists studied it, psychologists wrote theses about it. But in truth, people just helped one another, because years ago, one man hadn't walked past someone else's pain. Sarah III finished the diary. The final entry had been written one day before Sarah Sr.'s death. "I've lived an amazing life, from a poor woman to a respected lady. But my greatest wealth isn't status or money. It's love. Michael's love, my children's, my grandchildren's. Thank you, God, for that rude security guard at the station. If not for his cruelty, Michael might have walked past me. Thank you for the pain that led me to happiness." At the very end was an envelope. Sarah III opened it. Inside was a photograph and a note. The photo showed a young woman with a child. "This is my grandmother, your great-great-grandmother. Her name was also Sarah. She died when I was 5, but before that, she told me, in our family, women are strong. We go through pain, but we always find love. Remember that, and pass it on. I'm passing it to you, my distant granddaughter, who will one day read this." Sarah III pressed the photo to her chest. 5 generations of Sarahs, strong women who knew how to love and how to fight. She picked up her phone and called her husband. "Anthony? I was thinking, let's name our daughter Sarah, to keep the tradition." "Our daughter?" he asked, confused. "The one coming in 8 months," she laughed. The news spread through the family instantly. "Sarah IV, Uncle Leo cheered. "The keeper of the tradition," added Aunt Sophia. And Great-Uncle Daniel sat down at his desk to start writing a new book, The Chronicles of the Warren Family. That same week, a new visitor came to the museum. A man in his 50s, well-dressed, but lost, broken inside. "I wanted to see this place," he said quietly. "My wife left me. Said I've become cold, obsessed with money. She gave me a book about the Warrens. Thought maybe I'd understand something." Katie gave him a private tour. The man stopped for a long time before the photograph from the train station. He was rich, wasn't he? Yes. And he wasn't afraid? Love is stronger than fear. The man left the museum a changed person. That evening, he called his wife. "For the first time in years," he said, "I'm sorry. I love you." She came back. Another family was saved. Meanwhile, Christopher, the great-grandson of Peterson, fell in love with Mary, a volunteer at the foundation, once a former beneficiary saved from a suicide attempt. "I'm not worthy of her," he confessed to Sarah III. "She's an angel, and I come with this family stain." "My great-grandfather thought the same about my great-grandmother," she said. "Don't repeat his mistake. Fight for love." And he did. He courted her gently, the old-fashioned way, flowers, poems, serenades beneath her window. At first, Mary was startled, then touched, then in love. "You know my story, right?" she asked. "I do. And you know mine. We both come from pain, but we can build something bright." Their wedding took place in the very hall where it had all begun, at Penn Station. The foundation had bought and restored it, turning it into a conference center. On the spot where Michael once held Sarah's hand stood a sculpture now, 2 hands intertwined. "The circle is complete," Leo said at the wedding. The great-grandson of the man who abandoned my mother is marrying a woman saved by my parents' foundation. If that's not proof that love and kindness always win, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, in Japan, Kenzo opened a branch of the foundation to support single mothers. The idea shocked Japanese society. Such openness was unheard of. But the women came. Hundreds of them. Thanks to the American great-grandmother, the women in Kenzo's centers would say to him. He smiled. She came from a poor community, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that she had a big heart. In France, the twins Michael and Rose made a documentary about their family. It won at the Cannes Film Festival. We wanted to show that fairy tales do exist, they told the press. They just take courage and a lot of work on yourself. And little Kenzo Jr., the great-grandson with the puppy Mike, once brought home a classmate, a boy from an orphanage. Mom, can Sam stay with us? They're doing renovations at the shelter. Stay with us turned into forever. The Kenzo family adopted Sam. It's kind of a Warren tradition, picking up the lost ones, Kenzo laughed. The great-grandmother's diary was published, a limited edition, only for family and close friends of the foundation. But its quote spread across the internet. Love doesn't choose the right time or the perfect person. It just happens. And that's the miracle. Millions of likes. Thousands of comments with stories of people finding love in the most unexpected places. Sarah III gave birth to a daughter. On the day of the birth, the entire enormous family gathered at the hospital. For generations of Warrens, people of different nationalities, faiths, and social backgrounds, yet one family. What's her name? The nurse asked. Sarah Michaels, the father said proudly. In honor of two great people. The baby opened her eyes, warm brown with golden flecks, just like her great-great-grandmother's. She'll carry on their legacy, Leo said softly. And that legacy kept growing. The Warren Foundation became a global organization with offices in 50 countries. They'd helped millions of people, but more importantly, they had changed how the world thought about compassion, support, and love without boundaries. A new exhibit opened in the Manhattan Museum, Children of Love. It told the stories of all Michael and Sarah's descendants, their accomplishments, their families. There was even a special hall called Saved Lives, where anyone could leave their story about how the foundation had changed theirs. One day, a group of schoolchildren came for a tour. A typical field trip, the kids fidgeted, whispered, bored. But when the guide reached the story of the train station encounter, the room went quiet. A 12-year-old girl raised her hand. Was it real? Not just a fairy tale? It was real, said Sarah III, smiling. She was leading the tour that day. They were my great-grandparents. Want to see their actual things? She showed them Sarah's scarf from that day, Michael's coat, the one he'd laid on the floor, and the keys to the apartment. The children stared, spellbound. And all of this happened because of one meeting? A boy asked. Because of one choice, not to walk past, Sarah said. Imagine if everyone made that choice just once in their lives. After the tour, the same girl came up to her. My mom's raising 3 kids alone. My dad died. It's really hard for her. Can your foundation help? Of course, Sarah said gently. Bring her to us. They came 2 days later, the mother, a tired 35-year-old woman, but with dignity in her eyes, just like Sarah Sr. once had. They helped her, found a flexible job, enrolled the kids in a good school, arranged a low-interest mortgage on a small apartment. A year later, the woman returned to the foundation. I want to volunteer, she said, to help others, the way you helped me. Another link in the chain of kindness. At that same time, the old security guard from the station, the one who'd once humiliated Sarah, was living out his final days in a nursing home. Lonely, forgotten. When he learned he was dying, he asked the nurse, "Please take me to the Warren Museum. It's my last wish." They brought him. He sat in his wheelchair for a long time, staring at the photos, listening to the tour. Then he asked to see someone from the family. Leo came, older now, silver-haired but still straight-backed and steady. "I want to confess," the old man whispered. "I was a monster. I humiliated your mother just because she was different. If not for me, maybe none of this would have happened. Or maybe something worse would have," Leo said calmly. "Mom always said everything happens for a reason. Even cruelty can lead to something good. You were part of their love story." The old man began to cry. Can I do anything? To make it right? You already did."